We
So
are
we're starting
live.
We're on the air. So is anyone chairing the meeting today? Anyone designated the chair? Well, I guess I will step in. We usually have some updates that people would like to share, and then we have Sam Causton to tell us stuff about Spain and strategy and whatever else he has on his mind today. So would anyone like to share updates? Please know that we are being broadcast to YouTube. So keep that in mind, but everyone is welcome to share an update. Go ahead.
In Germany, 49-year-old man shot a 20-year-old student in a gas station because he asked him to wear a mask, and that's why Germany is it's chaos now. And we are in front of the elections. On Sunday we will have a new president or chancellor, and everything is going more extreme in our country now. That happens, and we are all shocked about this murder. It didn't happen before. We only saw it in the US last year that things like that happens, but in Germany we are not used to this because of COVID things.
Thank you for the update. That sounds it's important to know. Who else would like to share an update? People are just arriving. Yes.
Just a brief update on the UK. Government statistics for new cases today is 31,574. If you check the Zoe app, which has got the more reliable estimate, today's new cases is 44,549, and we recorded 203 deaths within a 28-day positive test range as well. So it's not great stats from the UK again today, unfortunately.
I'm sorry, the 200 deaths were today, but the point that you're making is that anybody who dies after 28 days from the time that they are diagnosed, they don't actually count those cases. That's the point that you're making.
No, you can find that information out of a little bit of digging, but they don't count them in the government stats anymore.
Yeah. Anybody else have an update?
Maybe I'll just jump in. I'm in Alberta, Canada, and we had our federal election yesterday. The outcome was pretty much the same as before the election, but there was a lot of emergency response in Alberta put on hold because of politics. And so today our government is probably going to collapse within the next week due to infighting, and we're enacting medical triage in all of our hospitals. And we've run out of room for the dead. So that's kind of where we're at right now. And I'm hoping that things improve over the next couple of weeks, but it's going to be a rough one. So I'm grateful to be able to talk to everyone and just kind of see what else is happening and let you know what's happening here.
Great, thank you. Thank you for telling us. Anybody else who has an update or some questions to share?
Yeah, just to say that in Spain it's the other way. Our case numbers are lower than they've been for over a year now. And so we've got a very different dynamic where people are starting to say that it's finished, that it's over, and they won't be saying the same thing in 2 or 3 months when the cold weather bites. And so yeah, it's the same mistakes we made last year. People learn very slowly.
I'm sure you'll share more about your thoughts in a few minutes, so thank you for that update, Sam. Anybody else would like to share a brief update?
I'll give a brief one. Public leadership in Florida has moved to appoint an anti-masker as their Surgeon General. Someone who thinks the vaccines really are overrated. And, well, much of the country's being crushed and parts are actually getting better in terms of cases, but not the damage caused by long COVID. We're seeing the anti-scientific groups gain power in much of the country in terms of public health leadership, which of course is lacking.
I will share a quick headline. There's a story that says New York parents and teachers are concerned about school safety. In the chat, that's becoming quite widespread in the US, and the fact that parents are getting more involved in the question of safety for their children is super important. We really see a much larger community effort than we've seen up until now in the US. Anybody else, maybe someone who just arrived, would like to give an update, or someone who's been waiting to say a few words, please go ahead.
I can share a screen as for the Spanish dynamic. Okay, I'm sharing it now. You can see all?
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the Spanish dynamic so far. So the first is cases, then of course hospital, and then ICU, and then the deaths, the last one to the right. So as Sam is saying exactly, Spain is doing great, but they will share, yeah, like he said, the last year's failures and also Israel's mistakes, because Israel was almost having nothing, right, because of the vaccines, and then everything started again. So probably it will happen. That was my update.
Thank you.
And Poland is rising.
Maybe we'll do another update. Is there anyone who's new to the daily call who would like to introduce themselves? Amanda, thank you for saying hello earlier. Is there anybody else who would like to say hello and introduce themselves? Okay. Well, if not, Sam, would you like to take over from here and take the floor, so to speak?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Do I put myself somewhere?
No, you're in a perfect. You can be there. You can be anywhere.
There, I'll be there. Okay, I'll sit down here. Super. Thank you very much. It's I want to present a project today. It's about DIY air purifiers. If anyone's seen the Corsi Rosenthal boxes, I'm sure most of you or all of you have already. Well, we're engineering a similar project in Europe, as well as trying to push the same thing in Canada and the United States. And I wanted to talk to you about that. And I suppose the audience I have in mind is particularly other Europeans who might join our project, but also anyone in America or anywhere else in the world who's thinking of making it an important part of their work. It's about these filters, but it's also about narratives. The narratives we're seeing during the pandemic. It's about it's about teaching. It's about how we as activists can teach the public, and it's about leadership. So I'm not I will speak about the boxes, but the narratives, the teaching, and the leadership feature very heavily. I don't have an awful lot of time, so I'm going to speak very quickly. We have two narratives, don't we? We have the one where the pandemic is ending and people aren't worried anymore after the vaccination campaigns, that we can and must accept a certain amount of death and illness from now on, and that also that we're doing all that we can, and that there's not much more to do, and there aren't any more good ideas out there, and that there aren't a lot of votes in more effective mitigation measures. Then there's the counter narrative, the one that we espouse. One is that this is not over and winter is coming in most of the northern hemisphere, and things are going to get dicey again. We don't think voters are very happy with the idea that they or their loved ones have to catch COVID over and over again. We don't have to accept lots of death and illness. There are lots that we can do, and that a more effective response will win votes. Critical for politicians to know that. One of the reasons why we decided to go with this DIY air filter project was to challenge the first narrative and support the second. The spectacle of groups of citizens getting together to defend themselves and their communities against COVID spread would be a very fitting challenge. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. So now I want to move on to what these boxes can do to teach. We are still in September 2021. I walk into the supermarket and I still see hand gel, and I don't see CO2 meters. Which tells me that the out-of-date science that we were told at the beginning of the pandemic is still in people's heads, still in the public's heads, and still in the heads of people who are in charge. We think that the reason for this, we've been talking about this a lot, and one of the reasons it could be that the out-of-date science was learned traumatically. Okay, people would dropping like flies at the beginning of the pandemic, and people told us to clean surfaces and to keep a distance of 2 meters. And because of the trauma that was involved in that learning, it creates great neuronal valleys in our heads. It's very hard to unlearn things that have been learned so deeply through that trauma when we were all putting our shopping in the washing machine. So these things are very difficult to unlearn. When we talk about aerosols to people, it doesn't fit in with their existing patterns of thought, with their existing schemata that they have in their brains. So they tend to minimize the importance of what we're saying, or they might just ignore it. Now, it's better to teach through action and physically visible things than with words. We scream and shout on Twitter, on social networks. We talk to our friends and our loved ones. But if we can put a filter in a place and turn it on, and people see what it's doing, then that will force them to confront, to say, well, why is it working? What does this do? And the reply obviously is, well, COVID's in the air, and they can see the filter working. So we think that the physical manifestation of airborne protections will be more effective than talking about it. One of the most effective bits of teaching I've seen throughout this entire pandemic is the butcher in my father-in-law's village, because he'd obviously been on social networks, and sometime last year he put a CO2 monitor in his butcher's shop in Spain, and every time the CO2 reading goes above an acceptable level, it beeps. And he asked all of his clients to open the doors and asked 2 or 3 of them to go and wait outside until it went back down to an acceptable level. The number of conversations that one action in the real world, not on social media, the number of conversations that action provoked in that village was enormous. Everyone was asking why he was doing it. And, you know, the answer was because it's in the air. So we think that these boxes are great teaching tools. I'm just going to share my screen quickly. Can we all see this?
Yes, we can see it.
Super, thank you. So these are Corsi-Rosenthal boxes. In the United States, these two engineers, Corsi and Rosenthal, have designed this box. It's a fan. It's really simple. It's a fan with 4 or 5 MERV 15, MERV 14, MERV 13 filters built into a box around the fan. It blows contaminated or possibly contaminated air through the filters, and out comes cleaner air. You can see on social media, if you go to the hashtag Corsi-Rosenthal box, I urge you all to do it. Do it now if you want to, and look at the pictures and look at the most recent tweets, because you can see people all over the United States building these boxes to defend themselves and to defend their institutions, to defend their communities. And you can also see how it's sort of snowballed. You know, one tweet, one picture leads to another 2, leads to another 3. The snowball, the effect of this is not just on social media though, because these are physically in places, and so the kids in the school are going to be asking, why have we built this box? You know, the people in the church congregations are going to be asking themselves. The teaching is magnificent. These are some of the designs are wonderful. So here we have a record player. Thanks very much to Amanda who's in the audience. I think about 4/5. I think all except one of these are her designs, but it shows the potential. So a record player, a more classical, elegant design. We have Kirby, who's blowing out good air. We have this one on the right here with the 3 red globules going in, is designed as to make the didactic tool even more effective. It's showing the particles going in and getting cleaned, so that people can see what's happening. We have a space shuttle. This one made me laugh. It's been disguised as droplet mitigation, so that if anyone complains that it's not, you know, they might let it into schools if we disguise it as droplet mitigation. This one here is wonderful. The blue one, it's tremendous. Those are school colours. A school has built the boxes in their colours, and they've stuck their logos on the boxes to show pride in their institution. I think it's marvellous. This is an ugly but effective design as well. It's literally a fan. In Spain, every family's got 1 or 2 of these fans lying around, and all they've done is strapped a filter on the front, put a plastic sheet over the top so that the air doesn't escape, and a bit of tape. If you already have the fan, which lots of us already do, that design will cost you 20-30 euros. So it's incredibly cheap. Right. Do these boxes work? Well, in comparison to other air filters which are commercially available, they absolutely do. This one here, the first arrow on the left, is a Corsi-Rosenthal box. You can see on the y-axis that the clean air delivery rate competes with many others of the commercially available boxes. But if you look at the x-axis, for a fraction of the price, okay, for half, for a third, for a quarter, or even a fifth of the price, you can build something that's equally effective. It makes it much easier for people to put in their places. It competes on noise. If you look at the second arrow here, the noise is decent, which is very important for places like classrooms or hairdressers or cinemas. Lovely. Right, I'm going to stop sharing and go on to talk about the next bit. about the project, about what we're actually doing. So the Causey Rosenthal box is already there. It works wonderfully in the United States, but in Europe our supply chains are different and the materials we have available are different. So we have a team of engineers, Amanda and Marcus, who are in the audience, are part of it. Multinational team who are trying to design something that's compatible with European supply chains. They're actually talking with suppliers in the Far East to try and open up some new supply chains. We're going to get it certified by the authorities so that any school head teacher or any office manager who says, look, this doesn't work, we can show them the certification. It will hopefully calm people's nerves about using them. Again, to say that, so why should your group do this? The first thing is that the spectacle of people throughout Europe building these boxes is a wonderful, unanswerable challenge to the other narrative. They challenge the ideas that people might have about the transmission mechanism. They do it very effectively. The main thing I like about this project is the opportunity that it gives our members, the people on our mailing lists, our Twitter followers, the opportunity that it gives them to lead. Okay? If you think about what people who've been wanting to lead and wanting to help during this pandemic have been able to do so far, I'm not talking about mayors, I'm not talking about head teachers, I'm talking about people on the street who love helping, the type of people who buy groceries for their neighbors and things, and things like that. Up until now, they've been able to wear their mask, they've been able to open a window, they've been on social media, they've been able to talk to friends, more often argue with friends, right? But this project gives them a chance to do something that will be more effective in their communities. They can think about the leadership opportunities. They can help raise money to buy components. They can build. They can create teams in their neighborhoods to build. They can talk to business owners. They can distribute these boxes around their neighborhoods. Thinking about the organizations that exist in our towns, cities, villages, schools can take a lead on this. The opportunity here for schools is not just to put them in their classrooms, although that would be wonderful. The sixth formers, the teenagers, can build these and they can take them into the neighborhood. They can win badges, they can win merits. It will look wonderful on college application forms. Okay, trade unions, always wanting people to be involved and active, always trying to generate leadership opportunities for their members. Well, again, unions can build these and try and get them in their offices, try and get them in their workplaces. Churches, other religious organizations can, as a congregation, act, build, and then go out into their neighborhoods. So we can lead and we can teach and we can challenge the narrative through this project, and we would love, especially Europeans, but anyone else, to join in with us. We need publicists, we need engineers, we need logistics people, we need designers, we need money. Where this is far from finished. At the moment in Europe, we have Swiss involvement. It's Marcus and his whole organization. We have Spanish involvement, that's Libres de COVID, that I'm one of the leaders of. We have UK involvement, but we would love for it to be a more transnational effort. We would love for a German element, a French element, an Italian element, and we think the spectacle will be stronger if it's pan-European, if it's international. So yeah, we're ready for any questions. We have engineers here to answer any technical questions, and I'm here for anything that I can help with. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sam. That's really important thinking, and obviously we appreciate what you're doing. Do people have questions? So I would like to find out a little bit about sort of where the project is at this point. Do you have some specific information about what's the next step that's happening?
So we're moving on a few different fronts. The engineers are full steam ahead, working extremely hard. I don't think the solution is ready yet, but it feels like it's close. I wonder if Marcus could say something about that, or Amanda could say something about that later. Amanda, fire away.
Yeah, sure. I can jump in. So we've got kind of two streams going in the European kind of supply chain search right now. So Stefan, who's working on a lot of our tech lead stuff, has been working on kind of taking imported filters, so furnace filters that are more ubiquitous in North America, and trying different fans that are more available in the UK. Because what we found is the original design, the box fans are just not something that is sold in Europe very much. So we're trying to find something. The main goal is to find different things, different options that you can go to your local store and purchase, because that's the whole thing, is making sure that it's accessible and finding different options for the combinations of materials. And we're kind of working with the Corsi Rosenthal box. Jim Rosenthal has been really supportive of kind of what we're doing to try and kind of mold that project into something that's more available in Europe and internationally. And so he's kind of helping us on deciding how to work with different filter media, because something outside of the furnace filter design. And because I'm in North America, I can take some of the Corsi Rosenthal original designs and do testing on them and other things, because it's easier for me to get those supplies. And then Marcus, I think, should chat about the Swiss design.
Well, let's see if I can. Oh, this works. I'm quite new to this room, but yeah, I've been working on, after seeing the Corsi Rosenthal box, I've been working on creating something for Switzerland initially, but then I think it was Stefan from the UK that contacted me if I wanted to join the larger team, and I was like, yeah, of course, because the bigger we are, the more we can reach. So I think the best is to just take you along with pictures what has been happening, so that you can just get a view what's going on with the development. So I'll share my screen somewhere here. Okay.
The share screen is in the upper right.
Yep, I found it. So
good.
So here you see, let's start here. Actually, in the picture on the top right, you can see a fan which has been affected by Amanda's ideas, being taken somewhere, traveling along with a 3D printer. And then we end up at Chemfil, which is a global manufacturer of filter media. Then they show us around what they do, because we work with them together directly. So I went to their factory, actually, in Switzerland. Then we worked on a quick design made out of cardboard. Then we actually made filter media. Let's see here, you can see the filter media we made. And schools will be able to make their own filter media. Chemfil will supply them with the parts necessary, and then the kids will learn how to assemble that and learn about quality control and assembly line and all that. So we take 6 of those filters, and you can see a fan similar to the one in the US. And then we make some kind of V-shaped contraption, of course, with lots of tape. And then we put a box around it. And then it looks like something that you can more or less already use. Quick prototyping, that took like 1 hour. So it's like 6 panels in a special arrangement. I call it fractal filters. three V-shaped things, and then the fan that blows air through it. Exactly. And then the next step is to test it. They have a test stand for filters. So we put it into the test stand and had it tested for particle reduction. Here's the test stand, and here you also see the factory. It's an old building somewhere in Switzerland. So we are in that stage where we do active development. Let me stop this. We do active development, but with Camfil, which is a huge global filter supplier, and we have at least 2 people on board from them because they support that project, because they see what power they have. Because actually they sell commercial, a bit more expensive air cleaners too, but they can't sell them to schools because no one is no one is interested. They're like, yeah, why should I clean my air? Which is really strange. So by having more air cleaners, having kids building their own air cleaner, they see the potential to also sell their air cleaner if people want to, but also lots of people will just build it themselves, and they will help, and they support us in every way they can. And also a technical school is supporting us with more detailed particle reduction tests. And most important, they will at the end supply a test protocol, which says officially, we, the School of Engineering, and I'm the professor of aerosols there, I say this works, this device works, because then everyone can see it was tested and it really works. So that's the current development status. The next step is tomorrow, where we build a wooden box instead of cardboard, and then we'll also replace tape with a better construction, maybe attach wheels, and then I already have 10 fans ready, and to go out to schools to go out with those 10 devices to a school that was interested as quickly as possible next week or the week after, to just give them those devices and to see how they work in the school environment, to find out what has to be improved, or if they don't like the look, or if also see how they can assemble it, all that. Just push it out as soon as possible and ask them, how does it work? Does it look good? Is it too loud, or what can we do? How many devices do we need per room? Where do we put them? Just as quickly as possible, actionable items. And then their plan is, at least this one school, to have in all their rooms in the campus have self-built air cleaners once the kids return from vacation.
Thank you, Marcus. Thank you, Sam and Amanda. This is outstanding. We're a little bit past time. We usually try to keep the calls to about 25 minutes. We're now at 35. So is there anyone who has a last question that they would like to ask? Happy to have one more question, and then we'll close the call. Go ahead, Stacy.
It's just a quick question, obviously, because there's a problem with sourcing the parts in the UK. For the purposes of having a test run at building one, are there obviously smaller components aren't going to clean a classroom's air at all, but are there smaller components that can at least be used as a trial run just to try building them? Because I'd like to get my boys to have a go, if that's actually possible, in preparation for maybe making a full-size one.
I think a good option for that kind of testing out, just to see how the principles of it, a pedestal fan, like a circular fan on a stand, plus one filter is a great start, because it's super easy to put together, and it's been proven to be really effective by Smart Air was a company who started just with that principle, and now they make a commercial version that's just a fan that goes onto, or a fan that goes with a filter. Yeah, exactly that. And those are parts that are definitely sourceable in the UK, and you can just see, like, I find even when the air quality isn't so good from outside, it makes a huge difference. And you can definitely just get a sense of kind of the principles of how it works, and you can build a bunch of them and then just have them blowing around. So, and then let us know how it is, and then take pictures and send them to us, and then we'll be able to share them around.
That's great, thank you. My boys are home educated, so I feel a design and technology day coming on with these, and we'll see how we get on. Thank you.
That's fantastic. Look forward to seeing it.
So thank you very much for joining, and we will bring this daily call to a close. We will continue with the social time. Everybody is welcome to hang out, but let's stop the